Hello, and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Steve, and apologies, I'm a little bit late with my release this week. I've actually been up working until 1 a.m. most nights on a contract related to the Black Friday sales that kicked off this morning. So I haven't actually had a chance to get back to the comments on my last video or drop my thoughts into a release midweek like I had planned. But now that this deadline has been successfully hit this morning, thank God, I could sit down and record my plans for game week 13. Now, I've got one free transfer and a whopping 6.3 million sitting in the bank ahead of game week 13. And today we'll discuss what to do about Gabriel and Konate, as those flags may alter my pre-planned move. Whether I'm going to follow through with that pre-planned move and bring Saka in or pivot to an alternative. And probably the biggest question of the week is who to captain. So before we jump into it, remember to give this videos a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, especially if you get any value out of the following content. Right, so my flags to Gabriel and Konate. So we'll start with Gabriel, as he is probably the easiest to talk about. Now, he actually came off the pitch midweek when Arsenal were up 5-1 at the point, I think, when he came off with 5 minutes to go. And after the match, he did look like he was walking freely after the match. I'm going to keep this pretty short. I think he'll probably play, and it is definitely not worth a transfer to deal with him. So I'll just be rolling the dice on Gabriel, as we will probably get no word from Arteta on him anyway, but he looked to be moving pretty easily post-match. So that's going to be enough for me this week. Konate, though, is a lot tougher. Now, he was seen limping towards the sheds at full time midweek against Real Madrid. Now, it looks like that limp was caused by a knee collision. Now, knee injuries can be six of one, half a dozen of another, really. They can sometimes look a lot worse than they are, or feel a lot worse than they are. And sometimes you just wake up the next day and they are all well and good. Sometimes it's something way more serious, and even though he's walking around, he could have done some serious damage. So it's actually going to be pretty tough to know what's going on with Konate. So Liverpool are actually playing in the final game of the game week, so it's unlikely we're actually going to hear very much about what's going on there. I mean, on the plus side, being the last game of the week means he does have the maximum amount of time to recover. I mean, it's not the early kickoff or anything. The problem is he does have Man City at home this week, and it is followed up by Newcastle away. But then he does have a pretty epic run of fixtures. I mean, City at home, Newcastle away, but then it's Everton away, Fulham at home. I mean, Tottenham away is probably a bit tough, but then Leicester, West Ham, United, who I don't even know what's going on with United at the moment. I'll probably drop some comments on Emiram's United in a later video, as I've got some thoughts there. And then Nottingham Forest away. And try not to get sidetracked into Manchester United this week. So, pretty good run of fixtures coming up. Tough one this week. Now, I did get Konate super cheap. I bought him in for 5.0 million. And he's currently up at 5.4. So I don't think I'm actually going to sell him for a couple of reasons. Well, I really don't want to, because I still want to be invested in the Liverpool defense. I mean, of course, if we somehow find out that he's out for ages, then I will seriously reconsider what I'm going to do with him. But I think I'm probably just going to end up rolling the dice. I don't love most of the defenders out there. I mean, it's not even going to be easy to jump across to another Liverpool defender, and I don't really like anyone else. I mean, I held Pedro Porro through the Man City fixture last week, which worked out really well, of course, but I was I was looking at it going, I mean, even if I do sell him, who am I even going to go to? And so I think I'm just going to be rolling the dice on both of these lads. I think Gabriel will play. I mean, Konate could miss because it is a knee injury, but I don't think I'm too opposed to having Faze come in off the bench away to Brentford. I mean, I might even reorganize my bench to put Greaves in some sort of. I mean, probably not. I mean, Greaves hasn't played for a while. He probably won't even start, so it's probably going to have to be Faze. Brentford away. I mean, he's going to concede. Is it going to be better than anyone else that I could potentially buy? And is it worthwhile upgrading that bench member to play him ahead of Konate? I'm not really sold. So we'll just move on to my pre-planned move, which was going to be Saka in, as this is the only reason that I am kind of querying whether I should actually do anything about Konate. Now, Saka was planned in. I think I started planning him in game week 8 or so, thinking that I wanted to bring him in at game week 12, and I wasn't able to do so. So game week 13 looks like a pretty good week to be bringing him in for West Ham away. I mean, I know West Ham did get the win last week against Newcastle in the final game, which actually worked out really well, considering there was some pretty heavy Isak ownership and whatnot. But Odegaard is back at Arsenal, and Saka and Odegaard work extremely well together. Saka is coming off the back of a 13-pointer as well. And to be honest, I kind of wish I had considered bringing him in for a hit last week, as I did have long-term plans to bring him in for game week 12 and decided against. Well, I didn't even decide against it. That's why I'm annoyed. I didn't even raise the decision of actually potentially taking a hit for him. So I sold Haaland last week for João Pedro, which worked out amazing, and then brought Salah in to captain him, which also worked out amazing. But I didn't even stop to think about whether I should also bring in Saka to give him a bit of a nudge against Nottingham Forest. And of course, that would have worked out extremely well, and I would have been a transfer ahead with a whole bunch more points. And I probably could have more seriously considered upgrading my bench to potentially handle someone like Konate. Now, I really, really, really want Saka this week. So do I follow through and bring him in to just roll the dice on Konate? Or if I don't bring Saka in, do I upgrade Faze to cover Konate and play whoever that player is over Konate to not have Saka for West Ham away? I mean, that doesn't sound great. I don't really want to be putting any more money into my defense. And if you've been following the channel for a little while, I did say that if I did still bring Saka in this week, I wanted to use the leftover 1.8 million that I will have after that transfer to upgrade Stewart for the busy Christmas schedule. So I do have 6.3 million in the bank. I will be selling Smith Rowe if I do follow through with a Saka move. Smith Rowe was looking pretty leggy in the early stages of the second half last week, came off before the 60-minute mark, and he has been benched earlier in the season in one of the more tougher fixtures. Can't quite remember who that was, but he was benched in favour of a defensive midfielder. Tottenham away is the kind of match where that could happen again, especially considering he did look tired in the last game. So there's nothing much really to discuss there. It will be Smith Rowe out for Saka if I do follow through with the move. So I don't think it's worth investing any money to upgrade Faze. Brentford away is actually not too much of a terrible game, even though I do think they will concede. It's a very, very slim chance that maybe FaZe gets his head on some sort of corner or something, as Brentford have conceded quite a lot of chances throughout the season up until now. But of course, that is not ideal coming in. So, long story short, I think Saka is still worth spending my one transfer on. And I'm just going to allow FaZe to come in off the bench for Konate if he happens to be out. I'm probably pretty screwed if Gabriel also happens to be out too, because I don't think Greaves is going to... I mean, who knows? Maybe Greaves is back fit and he comes in for the last stages of the match and grabs me a cheeky 1-pointer or something like that. But yeah, that's still going to be my move this week. I am actually going to spell Smith Rowe for Saka. I just roll the dice on my defenders. So then all that leaves is captaincy. And honestly, there's actually heaps of options this week. I've actually been playing around with the idea in my head and amongst all the chaos of the deadline that I've been going through this week. So we'll start off with probably the most talked about man, who's Mo Salah, playing at home against a struggling Man City, who were up 3-0 midweek against Feyenoord and managed to concede 3 goals in the last 15 minutes of that match, which does bode pretty well for Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool have been attacking amazing. Salah has just been on an absolute tear. I brought him in last week because he was absolutely destroying my rank with all the double-digit hauls, and he just got another one. He doesn't seem to be showing any signs of slowing down. Now, Pep knows this is a crucial game. I mean, I think they haven't won in 5 matches or something. I'm not super up to speed with FPL this week as I have been super busy, but I think it's 5 on the bounce that haven't won a game now. He's also been struggling to figure out how to solve the Kovacic injury problem, who was the replacement for Rodri. Now, in game week 12, he rolled out a 4-3-3, which didn't work too well. And then, of course, against Feyenoord, he rolled out a 4-2-3-1. God only knows what he's going to try against Liverpool this week, but I suspect he's going to go probably with a bit more of a defensive shape. Maybe another 4-2-3-1, and just maybe try and just firm up the centre of the park. He's going to have a hell of a time slowing Liverpool down. Now, this could be a very cagey affair, or Liverpool could actually smoke them this week, you know? Could seriously consider chucking the captaincy on Mo Salah. Let's talk about the other alternative options. Now, my boy Cole Palmer is at home to Aston Villa. And I've been absolutely loving watching Chelsea play football over the last few game weeks. And to be honest, the fresh legs that Chelsea are rolling out week on week is actually pretty huge. Palmer has been playing superbly. He got very unlucky with Mudweka getting in the way of his goal last week, and he was pulling the strings in the centre of the park. But he was kind of assisting the assister, and has been doing that for a couple of weeks. Now, that's the only drawback to Palmer, and it's a slim one at that, and I think Aston Villa are probably there for the taking. Now, he does have my bus captaincy when the deadline rolled over last week, and to be honest, I think it's probably going to stick. Now, my bus vice captaincy is actually currently sitting on João Pedro. Now, I could definitely make a case for João Pedro, and I think he could definitely play 90 minutes this week, as this will be his 3rd game back and probably his 2nd start, assuming he does get the start, of course, against Southampton. Now, there is a midweek fixture to think about, and it is only his third game back, so odds on he probably doesn't make it to 90 minutes for his third game back after a 7-week hiatus. And so that's probably reason enough to not be putting the captaincy on João Pedro. And it's also probably reason enough to shift that vice captaincy off him. Now, Mbeumo is also probably a great captain, as he will hit the 90 minutes, nailed, hasn't been involved in a hell of a lot of attack over the last few game weeks, but he's playing Leicester at home and, of course, is on penalties. Now, if any of you out there were going to actually roll the dice and chuck the captain's armband on Mbeumo this week, I wouldn't talk anyone out of it. But I don't think he's captain material for me, simply because I don't really know what Brentford are going to do. I think Chelsea are just a much more sound and safe team, and I think they're just going to end up with a whole bunch more chances. Hopefully Palmer gets in and amongst it. Now on Chelsea, I could go ultra differential and chuck the captain's armband on Nicholas Jackson, who pulled me in a very nice double digit last week. But he is so bad at getting himself yellow carded for the most ridiculous reasons. He is on 4 yellow cards at the moment, and if he does manage to pick up his 5th yellow card, it'll just crush his bonus point prospects, unless of course he gets multiple returns and happens to be the only man involved in those multiple, well, the only man involved in the goals, I suppose. And so I don't think I'll be chucking the captain's armband on Nicholas Jackson. But again, I think he's probably, with Liverpool playing City this week, he's still a decent enough shout. I probably wouldn't talk anyone out of that either. He knows he's on 4 yellow cards, and he is 1 yellow card away from suspension, and so potentially he's way more calm and manages to hold his tongue and doesn't get himself his 5th yellow for yet another descent to the ref. But I mean, he is the focal point of that attack, and he was looking very good, and his finishing this season has been way more accurate than last season. So, I mean, Nicholas Jackson's probably a good enough captaincy candidate as well. But of course, I am bringing in Saka this week for Smith Rowe, and Saka away to West Ham is also another fine captain choice. He is probably going to get my vice captaincy chip once I do bring him in later tonight, probably straight after this video actually, because having talked this through, I'm pretty much sold on the idea that Saka is definitely coming in. So I think he will get my vice captaincy vice captaincy chip. But I don't think I'm going to switch it off Palmer to go with Saka, but you never know. And how it could even land on Salah yet. I'm still not sure where my captaincy is going to end up. But right now, if the deadline was coming and I had to lock it in, Palmer would probably be my captain with a vice captaincy on Saka. I'd be still very, very tempted by Salah, as he's probably going to be a little bit of a differential captain this week, I would imagine, given the fixture. Well, that's it for this video. Good luck to you all this week. I think I've got a pretty strong team heading into game week 13, and I am hoping for another big green arrow, as I am 2.2 million at the moment, which is horrible. It's not Christmas yet, but I want to be way further up the ranks by Christmas. But there is a lot of fixtures to come thick and fast, starting with game week 14 midweek. Now, I will get to some of your comments later tonight, so make sure to drop me a comment on this video, and you'll probably get a response a little bit later on after I've had some dinner and stuff. But all right, well, that wraps up this video. So don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a comment to tell us what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time.